Everything you just saw was shot on this lens, the Canon RF 16mm f2.8 STM. And I know what you're thinking, this lens looks very similar to this lens. This is the Canon RF 50mm f1.8, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. These lenses share just about the same exact build quality, size, weight. The only difference I really noticed was the control ring on this 16mm feels a little gritty and sticks a bit, but this lens is also a rental, and so I'm just gonna chalk that up to this lens having a very hard life. Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about the RF 16mm, what it's like to shoot with, the photo quality, the video quality, the flares, the bokeh, and then we're gonna compare it to the big brother, the RF 15-35 f2.8, and see how it stacks up. Starting with photo quality, I would say it performs quite well, especially considering the size, weight, and price of this lens. I found the lens does love to flare, and it doesn't come with a sun hood, although Canon will sell you one for $40. The flares are not particularly beautiful, with the lack of aperture blades becoming very apparent. Sharpness is kind of what you would expect. It is not L series levels of sharp, but it is definitely good enough. The closer you get to the edges, the more that sharpness starts to fall apart. One thing I did notice once I started to edit these files in Lightroom was the distortion. If you turn the lens correction off, you can see just how distorted the image truly is. Now, I think this comes down to price. In order to keep this lens under $300, it is actually $250 at the time of this recording. Canon had to cut costs somewhere, and you can tell a lot is being done after the fact to clean up and straighten the image. More expensive wide-angle lenses utilize complex lens groups to fix this kind of distortion before the image ever hits the sensor. CA, or chromatic aberration, is fairly well controlled except for on the extreme corners of the image, but for the price, I still think this is more than acceptable. You have to work a little to get separation being such a wide angle lens, but the bokeh and out of focus elements rendered pretty well. I was impressed just by how well defined the bokeh actually was, and the close focusing distance to the lens is actually really good. As for taking the photos, I found this lens to be a joy to use. It is light and portable. I found myself bringing my camera with me more, and that is often the big appeal for lenses like this. They're very easy to live with, bringing your camera doesn't feel like such a chore, and the image quality is enough of a boost over a phone for it to still make sense. Moving to video quality, that is where I was most surprised. The video quality out of this little lens was very good. I shot everything with my Canon R6, which is a full frame camera, but I would expect this to be a popular lens to shoot with on crop sensor cameras like the R7 and R10, since that will give you a 24mm equivalent field of view. Again, I noticed that this lens loves to flare, so if I were to buy this myself, I would probably spend the $40 to get a lens hood. While I was out, I also did a quick vlog test, so let's jump back to that and check it out. Here we have a vlogging test for the RF 16mm f2.8, and the first thing you're going to notice with this lens compared to something like an RF 15-35 is just the size and weight. It is a much more manageable package, especially if you're going to be vlogging with this for extended periods of time. It is not image stabilized, but being such a wide lens, that really isn't a big problem. So I could see vlogging being a very big reason why you might want a lens like this. Now, how does it stack up against its bigger brother? Compared to the RF 15-35, the corner sharpness and lens coatings is where I noticed the biggest difference between these two lenses. The RF 15-35 is tack sharp in the center and in the corners, whereas the RF 16mm has a noticeable drop in quality as you move towards the edges, as well as chromatic aberrations. When it comes to video, the difference is not nearly as noticeable. Both lenses look great, with the RF 15-35 having the slightest advantage in sharpness. When it comes to coatings, the RF 15-35 clearly has better coatings on it because the flaring and ghosting is greatly reduced compared to the RF 16mm. Now, should you buy this lens? If you own something like a 24-105, I could absolutely see this being a great pickup, especially for the price. This would make for a great landscape lens, a lightweight vlogging lens, or like I said, if you have a crop sensor camera, this gets you that 24mm equivalent that so many people love to shoot with. If you already own a wide angle lens, this is a bit harder of a sell. If you need something that is small and light, the 16mm definitely fits the bill, but other than that, there really isn't much of a reason to pick this up. I hope this video helped to answer any questions you might have about this lens. If you have anything specific that I didn't answer, leave that in a comment down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another one.